I've had this conversation a lot, particularly with people who are interested in adopting and don't know the ropes of it. Like, one of the number one bits of advice I'll give to prospective adoptive parents who ask me about really foster adoption can be summed up in these three words: know your role. You have to steel your heart, and it's incredibly difficult, but you have to steel your heart until you know that you know.
Wow. What would you say are some of the things that maybe most people don't know about or have misconceptions about when it comes to adoption?
Oh, yeah. You never know what you'll get. And I hear this and I'm thinking, well, this implies that having children biologically, you know what you'll get. One point it's important for me to make, and I hope it's important to your listeners. I thoroughly reject the adoptive parents as hero thing, way it's greeted, because I wanted kids, I got them. Our old place had a really wide front porch step, and there's like 20 some kids on that porch. There's people that want you to do it, that will help you out. Don't let it scare you.
The message that I'm hearing from you is you don't have to be a hero, and there's a support system out there for you. Join me, Carrie Baldwin, with Doc Dixon as we dare to think about foster adoption. Today, I have with me a magical guest, Doc Dixon, here to talk about the wonders of adoption. Doc is actually better known for his work as a professional magician. For decades, he's performed for clubs, resorts, and corporate events across the country. He tours theaters with his one-man comedy and magic show, Too Much Coffee. He has fooled Penn and Teller on the hit TV show Penn and Teller, Fool Us. He has performed on the Late Late Show with James Corden and has twice entertained at the White House. He's also sawed Tom Woods in half. It's so
That's
fun.
truly the most impressive.
That is really, really the most impressive one.
With Dr. Paul's encouragement.
That's right. Doc has actually come on today not to talk about magic, but to talk about adoption. And Doc, remind me, you've got 6 adopted children?
6 sons and a daughter. The daughter is all grown up and married and with kids of her own.
That's with your wife, Bethany. Before I ask you about Bethany, though, I want to ask you, how did you become a Reformed Christian?
Here, I'll give you my 2 favorite answers to that. One is the accurate one, and one is my favorite story that I like to tell every time I join a church, the few times over years moving. This 80-year-old lady was joining a Presbyterian church, and they asked her, when did you become Reformed? When did you become a Christian? She said, 31 AD. I thought we were Reformed here. Anyway, for me, I've never actually said that. I think you can say that if you're a cute little old lady, but I don't think I quite meet that. On the internet, discovered a 5-part sermon series on Tulip from a pastor. I believe he's Dutch Reformed in Minnesota. His name's R.W. Glenn. And I heard that, and it was really good. And that just kind of opened the doors up theologically and intellectually to a number of things. And that was really it. That's what, was the expression, the camel's nose in the tent, that's what.
Now you're also a libertarian. So when did you become libertarian?
Maybe about the same time. I don't think the two worked in concert, but probably around about the same time. The same story many of us have. You're listening to Dr. Paul, but that's kind of the catalyst of it. But then much, much, much more reading after that.
That's so interesting. I grew up as a Lutheran and became Reformed later on in life, but I noticed that my journey towards libertarianism ran parallel with becoming Reformed.
I think there's a bit of a juggernaut element in both. Once began studying Reformed theology, and even the first T in Tulip, total depravity, that leads to the U, and that leads to the, boom, 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 boom. It wasn't like any of them existed in isolation.
Right.
And much like those foundational things in libertarianism, you read one and it leads to the next and leads to the next, and that sort of thing. And
yeah. Well, I want to jump into this topic on adoption. I want to ask you about your wife. You refer to your wife on social media as SHW, which for the uninitiated stands for smoking hot wife. I really want to hear about how you two met.
Much like how I became Reformed Stories, there's two versions, but this case, they're both accurate. The very short version is we met over a naked guy at the back of a pool hall.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to have a heart attack now and die and leave you with that mystery.
Oh, my God.
When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, my best friend, wonderful guy, lived in a little town of Sutersville, Pennsylvania. Name was Bob. And Bob was a quadriplegic. And he was paralyzed when he passed. It had been 42 years. And for a stretch of his life, Bethany was one of his home health care nurses. And I lived right next door to Bob, and I was over his place frequently. I mean, we were good buddies and, helped out, getting him in and out of bed and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's how we met. Oh, and I should explain the naked guy in the back of the pool hall. Yeah, that would help.
That would help.
Bob ran and owned a pool hall. So that's the pool hall part. And the naked part was back then, or at least for Bob, he didn't get out of bed every day. Mm-hmm. He maybe got out of bed 3 days a week, if that, due to his condition, the situation and all that. And so he would just be under his sheets in bed, and his bed was in the middle of his living room, and it was one of those hospital beds, tilted up and all that.
Sure.
He was naked underneath the sheets. And so many years ago, it dawned on us that, yes, we met over a naked guy in the back of a pool hall. Here, feel flattered. Depending how much I like a person depends whether they hear the rest of the story.
Then you guys, how long were you guys married before you guys decided to adopt?
Well, we were married in 99. And how old is, let me think, my eldest son is 16.
Okay.
So we got a couple years before that is when we started looking into it.
Okay. So why did you guys decide to adopt?
To put it simply, we wanted kids, and it wasn't going to happen other ways, traditional ways.
Sure. That makes sense. Can you describe the adoption process?
Sure. Over the years, because I have, 6 boys and my wife, when we're out in public, particularly when they were younger, for lack of a better way to put it, we're a bit of a visual, Because typically, let's say we're in the mall or something, my wife is at the front, the boys are following her, and I'm behind at the end doing if you will, security scans,
right.
Looking around for whatever the kids get into. And a couple times I've caught people, not impolitely, but obviously staring.
Oh, man.
And I get it, this beautiful woman, 6 kids following her, and me, at the end. And so I'll walk up to them, get about a foot from them, and I'll go, and they always get the joke,
Yeah.
So all that being said, what I'm going to share right now, how our adoption path works, I've had this conversation a lot. Mm-hmm. Particularly with people who are interested in adopting and don't know the ropes of it. I can remember, this had to be probably a dozen years ago. We were having a backyard sale, garage sale. And someone came up to us and said, "Aren't you the family that's adopted a bunch of kids?" Because they were interested in it. And we ended up, becoming friends and walk them through it a little. So what's the process like? Well, there are several adoption paths. The path we chose was foster adoption, which means you become foster parents first, mm-hmm. and then you can put criteria on the children you bring into your home when you're a foster parent. Like a common criteria is, and understandably, because I spent about a 13-year chunk of my life doing this, kids out of diapers. That's a common one. Some only want teens, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, one criteria that can be placed on it, and at least where we lived at the time, was children with a likelihood of being able to be adopted, which the flip side of that would be to say bio parents, the likelihood services can't fix the situation, which would make them appropriate for parents, or appropriate's a very soft word.
Sure.
So I think we went through about a year of classes. And then I think that if I remember correctly, the day we got certified is the next day we got a call, you want a kid.
Wow.
And yeah, and that's when Junior came into our home the next day.
Wow.
So and then the adoption doesn't take place immediately, because what has to happen for that to happen is the bio parents, the term is TPR, determination of parental rights. A period goes by where the child is, I don't know if this is the correct legal term, it's shared custody. It's in the custody of the Bureau, which in our case would be the Children's Services, and the bio parents. And whatever had happened in the parent's life to, in the eyes of the court, to disqualify them from being able to do this, that has to be rectified.
Right.
I believe that the federal law is, and this came around the time of Bill Clinton, who did this, that to keep these cases from going on and on and on and on and on, like years and years, which is a tremendous disservice to the child.
Sure.
I believe it's 15 months out of 18 months. If nothing progresses to the point where the bio parents are ready, then the default position is, okay, then the track switches and the track goes to adoption. That varies in time. For our boys, our two oldest boys were adopted on the same day, and they're a year apart because the bio histories are different.
So if you don't mind my asking, your adopted children are like not from the same family?
They're not biologically related, no.
Right. Okay. So you've got this process. You can sort of, when you're going through the foster process, you can ask for kids that fit a certain profile, ostensibly because I would imagine there are kids with trauma or histories that sort of need, special kind of parenting. Do I have that right?
Yes. I mean, sometimes the needs are far more pragmatic than you might think. Let's say a child has special physical needs that require someone strong enough to pick up a kid. Well, that certain parents would not be able to do that, or certain foster parents, I should say, would not be able to do that. A person might have a work schedule where a child old enough to be left in the home alone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's no one size fits all. All of our children came to us as infants.
Well, that just makes me think, like, that makes it possible for potential adoptive parents to adopt kids that do work with, the situation that the parents have, right? They don't have to adopt infants, for example, if they don't have somebody who's living at home, right, and can stay at home with the child.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's varied as it gets. There's no one size fits all.
Now, this adoption process is facilitated by Child Services, so that's the state. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, what you've described to me seems like a pretty positive experience. Do you have any critiques about how that process works?
We were very blessed in our situation, particularly with our oldest child. One of my best friends is an attorney, and he was also while he was an attorney, what's called a court master. In other words, he was the judge in the position of what you usually call a judge in these juvenile trials or hearings for the adoption process. So he really took us by the hand and guided us through it, as far as, like, one of the number one bits of advice I'll give to prospective adoptive parents who ask me about really foster adoption can be summed up in these three words: know your role. You love this child. You want this child to be yours in the eyes of the law and the state and everyone. But until the state comes along with that, you have to know your role in the process. I mean, all my children in my eyes were my children from the moment I laid eyes on them. But I had to know, somewhat crass way to put it, I had to know how to play the game.
Right.
And I can feel for these caseworkers. We got to be friends with many of them. It's funny. there were a couple of them that the moment we adopted, like that day, we then became friends on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Because it wouldn't be professionally appropriate,
sure.
to be friends outside of that.
Yeah.
But I can remember one coming into my house. They have monthly visits, and they're very, in some ways, perfunctory because, hi, how you doing? Oh, nice home.
Yeah.
No one's on fire.
Right.
How's the kid? That sort of thing. But like anyone else comes to my home, particularly in the morning, would you like some coffee? And I'll never forget the reaction. She said, why, yes, I would. And that reaction came from, in her work, it's easy to figure out, a caseworker is not always visiting pleasant homes.
Yep.
Homes that you would want to ingest a beverage from.
Yeah.
So why, yes, I would. And then she explained to us, her reaction.
That's interesting.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Dare to Think. I'm Carrie Baldwin, and I'm an independent researcher with a degree in philosophy. My mission is to reignite curiosity and thoughtful reflection by challenging and rethinking paradigms in politics, religion, and culture, and passionately promoting human freedom and flourishing. I accomplish this by producing content developed out of work as an independent researcher. My current project is formalizing my proposal for a libertarian theory of reproductive rights, which will seek to reconcile human rights between women and their offspring. Please subscribe to this podcast, Dare to Think, on your favorite podcatcher, and please go rate and review Dare to Think on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or Amazon. This will help others find my podcast. If you'd like to stay up to date on my latest articles and episodes, please subscribe to my monthly email list at mereliberty.com/signup. Now let's get back to the episode.
Have you heard any stories from maybe other adoptive parents who've struggled through the process in some way?
Yeah, sometimes, placement seems like it takes forever.
Mm.
And my wife and I were just so blessed. I mean, our current age of our boys, I hope I get this right, 16, 15, 14. So bam, 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 11, 10, and 7. Tremendous blessing. We had some wonderful caseworkers. Some caseworkers are more communicative than others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing, in the situation of, as a prospective parent, saying, we talked about different criteria, out of diapers, in diapers, whatever, saying a child who has a high likelihood of being able to be adopted. There are no crystal balls, magic 8 balls for that. It's
right.
Maybe. And for us, those maybes solidified into yeses, but that doesn't always happen. And that's an enormous heartbreak. Again, conversations I've had with other parents, you have to steel your heart, and it's incredibly difficult, but you have to steel your heart until you know that you know.
Wow. Yeah. What would you say are some of the things that maybe most people don't know about or have misconceptions about when it comes to adoption?
Well, here's one of my beefs.
Okay.
He's a friend of mine, and they were considering adoption. And he says this. He says, you never know what you'll get. And I hear this, and I'm thinking, well, this implies that having children biologically, you know what you'll get.
Good point.
And I want to know what this guy knows. What?
Right?
I mean, does he have these pre-intimacy meals or something?
Yeah.
Okay, we want a Super Bowl quarterback who's going to be a billionaire. Give me some arugula. I don't know.
Right. Ordering off of a menu.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like if you're at the gym and they have like a smoothie bar, add protein to that, whatever, Sheesh. And if anything, it's the opposite, because biologically, you don't know if you're going to have a boy or a girl. Mm-hmm. Newsflash. I knew what I was going to get with all the kids. That just, I don't say it ticks me off, just the dumbness of it. Though.
Right. Well,
to make fun of.
You certainly don't know what life is going to hand you, right? I mean, there are all kinds of curveballs that life throws at you that you didn't anticipate.
Well, your question was about misconceptions, right?
Other misconceptions or things that people don't think about.
Oh, this is a big one for me. People come up to my wife and I, and, when they find this out, like people know this for a long time, they know it, but, new folks doing this thing. Wait, you adopted these kids. Oh, bless you. Bless you for doing this. Bless you, the short response to that is my wife and I will just say, we wanted kids, we got them.
Yeah.
It's like we won the lottery, we're wearing big hats and driving Cadillacs, it's not, it bothers me for a deeper reason though. A couple of them. One, if they do that in front of my kids, I can be a little terse, and we've never met in person, but I'm 6'4". So
okay.
Big guy, I don't want to be testy in front of people.
Sure.
Because it's insulting to my children. It's like if you're, a guy just got engaged and you walk up to him, hey, I met your bride. Thanks for taking one for the team. I mean,
oh my gosh.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
There's an equivalence there.
Well, and I haven't heard this personally because I only have 3 kids, and 3
slacker.
3 is normal. I'm slacker. My brother, who has 2 kids, said that my 3rd child makes up for his 0.5 that he needs to have to keep the human race going. But I've got friends who have many more kids, 5, 6, 7 kids, and they get some of the same reaction. It's, the reaction will be, oh my gosh, are these all yours? And it's sort of this like shock, like, really? Like, you did this? And it's either,
ask me if they're all mine.
Are they all yours?
Now that one's a rental.
Yeah.
Sorry.
See, but I've heard mothers get frustrated with that question because it's like, number one, yes, I'm capable of having 6 children if I want them. And yes, I want them. No, I'm not in some sort of cult, and I don't need to blink twice if I need to be rescued or anything like that. It's an insulting comment because the assumption is it's not normal. And that there's something wrong with you if you've got that many kids.
Or I think, to put a point in it, the assumption is that normal matters.
I mean,
normal is basically a statement of statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, having 7 kids is not, finger quotes normal. And,
right. Mm-hmm.
I'm a libertarian without a podcast. How weird is that?
That is very weird.
I have to compensate by sawing Tom Woods in half. That's sad. Sad.
Maybe you can make 2 podcasts.
You don't have to be R.C. Sproul Senior to know that children are, the Bible tells us children are a blessing. Right. And it seems to come from a bad theology of children.
Mm-hmm.
These are my kids, period, done, end of sentence. You know? On a lighter note though, sometimes I've been out with the boys, and we used to have a big bahunkin' Ford passenger van, so big that when I'd be out with the family, like say we're staying somewhere at a hotel, I'd pull the van up to the front of the hotel to unload the van. But before my family could get out, another group came up because they thought we were the shuttle van to the airport.
Oh my gosh.
And it's always a awkward but harmlessly funny exchange.
Oh my God!
No, it's got a lot of kids, people.
Yeah.
If you give me $20, I'll take you. But I have met up with people. I remember this happened a while. I was in the Walmart parking lot, and it would be like if 2 hot rod guys pulled up to each other in the Walmart lot and they were talking about their cars. I pulled up to this other family, and we don't have those vans now, so it's not as obvious, but back then we had it, and pulled up to this other family who even had a bigger van. And it was like no introductions were necessary. We're just like, hey, you're my tribe. I get
That's
you.
Right.
We start talking about van stuff. One point it's important for me to make, and I hope it's important to your listeners. I thoroughly reject the adoptive parents is hero thing. The way it's greeted, because I wanted kids, I got them. And a spin I finally put on it a couple years ago to make it, I think, a little bit more palatable to people hearing that, because oh no, you're just being humble. And I'm like, you don't know me. I don't do humble. It's this. You got two heroes. You got Superman and you got Batman. For Batman to be Batman, he had to train and sacrifice and do all that Batman stuff, if you know your comic books 101.
Yeah.
Superman just had to want to do it. He was born for the job. And I think if someone wants to slap that hero thing on it, okay, but it's not the Batman kind. No more than any other parent. You just got to want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I think that's good, because I would imagine also, I mean, this is the first time I'm really thinking about this, but I would imagine also that slapping that hero sticker on there as if it's the Batman kind might actually dissuade some parents, some potential parents, from adoption.
100%, because no one wants to be a hero. And I mean, in our private hours, if you equate hero with tons of hard work, that's not really a drawing point.
Yeah.
Or a drawing card, excuse me.
Yeah.
To doing something. But if you said, no, you're born for it. They had these commercials out. I forget who they were from. They were a public service announcement, not every dad has to be. And it just showed like dads doing stuff like falling asleep on the couch, watching a movie with his kid. I'm like, that.
Yeah. No, that's good. Any other misconceptions you want to talk about?
You don't have to have a smoking hot wife to adopt, but I recommend it. I recommend it.
I love that you refer to her as smoking hot.
Well, it helps that she is. That's very helpful. Other misconceptions, there's a big community waiting to help you out. I mean, we used to have I moved to just south of Atlanta. It'll be 5 years ago this summer, but all of our adoption business, so to speak, was done while we were up in the Pittsburgh area. And we had probably half a dozen different families that we were tied in with, who were all shared that foster adoptive journey around the same time together.
Yeah.
And we would have, parties, get-togethers at our place. And I remember this one pic, I haven't looked at it in a while, but our old place had a really wide front porch step. And there's like 20 some kids on that porch.
Wow.
And so there's people that want you to do it, that will help you out. Don't let it scare you.
That's so good. Because the message that I'm hearing from you is you don't have to be a hero, and there's a support system out there for you to get you through it.
Yeah. And there are, I don't want to diminish the blessings my wife and I had. I mean, we've had one that comes to mind, great caseworkers. And I've talked with some friends, not in Pennsylvania, but I'm thinking of a friend in Nevada whose caseworker, that particular one, was rough. Just not the familial vibe that we kept getting from ours. So, but that's much like what is Romans 8, childbirth is a travail for a period, but then when it's done, you forget about it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this 9 months being pregnant, okay, it's the adoptive version of that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say, experiences or even difficulties, but experiences that you would say are probably unique to the adoption relationship versus the biological relationship?
During the pre-adoptive phase, yes, there's a lot of visits, some for us as many as 3 times a week, to and fro. There's that. I mean, again, how big of a challenge is that? I mean, my wife, it was made easier. I I have a home office and work outside the home, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom, so it was easier for that. You have to keep an eye open and do your research, like for medical issues. Sometimes the medical histories of the bio parents, you really want to know that if you can. Not to so much keep you from adopting. No, not that at all. But to give yourself a heads up.
Yes. Yeah.
About what may be on the horizon. They're surprised, different from bio parents. I mean, I don't have any bio children, so I can't compare it to that.
Sure.
But there are surprises in every parenting relationship. Back to my friend, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yes, there are surprises. There are things.
Look at the Baldwin brothers. I'm not going to take sides here.
I just have to say, I have Baldwin brothers because my last name is Baldwin.
Oh yes.
But it's funny. I have to say this because somebody commented on my Facebook page. They asked me if I was related to Alec. And I said, that's seriously like the oldest question I ever get. So when you bring up the Baldwin brothers, it's funny. I have history with that.
You should say, I'm not related to Alec Baldwin. I am related to Steve, though. I think he's the more low-key one when he was Barney Rubble.
Yeah, that's right. That's
there
right.
you go.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question since we did start out talking about your Reformed faith. Does your Reformed faith, or how does your Reformed faith inform your view of adoption?
I'm pretty sure the Bible's pro-adoption.
I think so too.
I'm pretty sure I don't claim to be a crack theologian. It informs it from this regard, and this is less adoption and more parenting. The Reformed faith, if I was Arminian in my faith, I don't think I would be able to sleep with my life. And I don't mean to insult any Arminian folk out there, just my own.
Yeah. The
Reformed tradition of catechesis, when the boys are much younger, teaching them the younger one at one point, we go in and out, study different things, it's in flux and it's plate spinning and all that. But the Apostles' Creed, and did you know, according this would be Stephen would say it, where it says, and the communion of the saints, he would say, and the mooning of the saints. It was like 4 or 5. The challenge to not wanting to correct him. That's good. That's
perfect.
I feel like I don't have much of an answer for that because I just think it's just so simple. It's like, these are kids. I want kids. They're my kids. I mean, God has adopted us.
Yeah.
So, go and do likewise, I guess.
There you go. Very good. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you. Are there any other thoughts you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
If anyone should be listening to this and they have questions about adoption, and now this is when I insert all the waivers of I'm not an attorney, a doctor, yada, 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 you can reach me via my website, docdixon.com.
Awesome. That's awesome. Very good. Well, it was so lovely speaking with you. I enjoyed it. And
same here, Carrie.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on.
Very welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Dare to Think. This is the official podcast of my website, mereliberty.com. There you can find my other episodes, interviews, and articles which seek to challenge and rethink prevailing paradigms. If you like what you heard today and would like to get access to premium content, please consider becoming a monthly member. 10% of every monthly membership will go directly to Let Them Live, a nonprofit aimed at relieving financial hardship for women considering abortions so that they will change their minds and choose life. For as little as $5 a month, you can get early access to all new content, monthly research updates, and a commenter profile so you can interact with me and other members on articles and episodes. Become a premium member and unlock even more benefits. You can find that information at mereliberty.com/membership and click on monthly memberships to learn more. And please do leave a review of Dare to Think on Apple and YouTube, and follow me on Facebook and Twitter.